Let's see how that sounds. Ooh. So much better. 808 glides or slides are an amazing way to add movement and interest to your 808s, and specifically for genres like drill and trap. So today I'm gonna show you my favorite way to do them in Studio One. Okay, so to illustrate this a little better, I'm gonna cook up a beat real quick just to give you some context. However, if you wanna jump straight to the tutorial, then I'll make sure to timestamp it down for you below. But okay, today I feel like making some UK drill type vibes. So let's go ahead and open up the browser and head over to Splice, which is now very conveniently integrated into Studio One. From here, let's just type in, I don't know, UK drill melody. For the sake of brevity, let's just take this one. And so this is at 143. Let's set that in. And it's in D sharp minor, so E flat minor, which is right over here. Perfect. That sounds really good, but I think I want to chop it up. So I'm going to bring up Serato sample, which is one of my favorite samplers at the moment. Now, unfortunately, you can't drag the audio from here directly onto the plugin, the VST. So here's what you do. Delete it from here. It doesn't really matter because if you go over to the pool section in the browser, you should see that exact sample here. Once you drag it from Splice into the arranger view, it gets stored in the media folder of your session. So this is what this is. From here, I'm going to right click, hit show in Finder, and then basically just drag that into here. So Serato sample's reading things a little bit differently. It's saying 180 at A flat minor. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna unsync this. Okay, from there, I'm gonna place one here in the very beginning, and let's go ahead and just chop it. Okay, from here, I'm gonna open up my Beatmaker's toolbar and let's quantize these to, let's say, eighth notes. And let's also make the velocity 100. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and bounce this to audio so we can commit that. What I'm gonna do here really quickly is add an EQ just to sort of filter this out. Now, I'm probably gonna add some more effects to this a little bit later, but just so we can get down to the drums, let's go down to the close hi-hat. I'm gonna create a MIDI event here that spans the length of my sample, open up the note editor, and I am gonna be using my Beatmaker's toolbar for this. If you don't know what this is basically a set of macros that I've created to make beat making a lot easier for you in Studio One. I'll link this toolbar down for you below, but essentially what's going to happen is I can go over here to my hats section. I'm using sample one, and now this is not the only drill hi-hat pattern there is, but I have included one in here, and so if you click this, very, very easy. However, this is not the sound we need, so let's go back over to Splice. Yeah, something like maybe that. Let's try this one. Let's go over to our snare now, same thing. And so what I'm gonna do here again is go over to the Beatmaker's toolbar, snares and claps. I'm using sample one. And again, I have a drill preset here. So snare and clap on 3 and 4. Boom, there it is. This is good. Let's pull it in here. I believe it's even the same pack. Woo! Let's go ahead. What if we add a little bit of like a pan man? Some movement here for these hi-hats, and we could probably do like yeah, it just kind of pans them like back and forth. And then last but not least, let's add a kick. The kick is gonna be super simple. Let's switch over to our drum view, and then I'm gonna place one on the 1. Boom, boom, boom. So like here, here, and here. And then maybe here and here as well. And then we can chop this in the middle, use the new loop function to just spread this out. I like to send all my drums all the time, regardless of genre, over to some sort of like room reverb send, just because I feel like it glues them a little bit better. And so just subtle, but let me see. Do we have a UK drill kick? Yo, this pack has been coming in clutch. I'm just gonna drag this one in here. Yeah. this needs some sort of like hi-hat rolls, right? And so what I'm gonna do is, let's see, maybe here in the beginning, we could take this one. Actually, let's switch over to a 16th note triplet grid, extend this over, select this, go over to the toolbar, edit, split at grid. What if we add one here, right there? And then let's go over to our transform tool here at the top. So there it is. These rolls in the beginning, I want them to like swoop up. And so we can select those, head over to our velocity tab, and then just bring this down. Now for this kick, I'm gonna bring in a knock. Shout out to Decap. This has probably been my go-to drum or like kick processing plugin. Low punch. Little soft clipping. Little saturation. Okay, so let's talk about the 808. Now, the first thing we gotta do is we gotta program an 808 that makes sense. And so I already have one here that I enjoy. And what we're gonna basically do is we have to program notes that fall within the scale that our sample is in. And so this was in E flat minor. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up the track list lane and I'm gonna bring in the kick just so I can see the ghost notes of the kick, because what I basically wanna do is I wanna create an 808 pattern that complements the kick. And so that's our E flat right there. Let's go ahead and lock in our scale. So E flat minor, and then lock that in. That way we don't play any wrong notes. And I'm gonna keep this super, super simple. So maybe just like duplicate it here as well. So like there, there. This area here is where I want to add the slides. However, I want to create a similar feel on the second half without the slides, but I still want to create a sort of like a pumping effect. And so the way to do that here on a 16th note grid, let's switch on over, is I'm gonna go ahead and cut this 808 right in the middle. And so what'll happen is, like, if you notice, this first 808 hit aligns with a kick, so it'll feel strong. And then the second one is going to feel a little bit weaker because it's just the 808. So it'll feel like a bump, 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 right? And so it sounds something like this. Okay, cool. Okay, so now that we have this in place, let's talk about how to do 808 glides in Studio One. Now, the method that I feel most people are familiar with is by using the pitch bend automation lane here in the note editor. This method here is really good for fast and easy glides. However, it's not my favorite because it has a lot of restrictions. Unless I'm missing something, what I found is that this parameter here really is just automating the pitch bend wheel on your MIDI keyboard, and that's going to have a restriction as to how far up and down you can go. For example, if I were to play that E flat here on the 808, and I shift that wheel all the way up, the highest I can go in this case, it looks like it's 3 semitones, so 1, 2, 3, that'd be an F sharp. And so although this method is great again for quick glides, it doesn't give me the most control. My favorite way to do them is to do it like the FL Studio way, where you program the note on the piano roll to dictate how far up or how far down you want that 808 to glide. Now, this method does require some small tweaks in sample one, but it's not too hard, so let me show you. Okay, so go ahead and open up your sample one. And now first things first, credit where credit is due. I did not come up with this method on my own. I actually learned it from another Studio One YouTuber by the name of Craftmaster Productions, so bro, shout out to you. But okay, here's what you wanna do. Go over to your amplitude section, lower everything down except for the sustain. The sustain, turn that all the way up. While you're here, I also like to turn my velocity all the way up. From here, head over to your master section, turn on mono, and then turn on glide. And last but not least, adjust your glide time to determine how fast or how slow you want that glide to happen. The more to the left you go, the less glide, and the more to the right you go, the more glide, but also the longer it'll take to glide up. So for example, if I turn this all the way to the left, and then I play 2 notes, no glide whatsoever. Conversely, if I turn this all the way to the right, check out what happens. A really elongated glide. Now feel free to experiment, but I found that anywhere from like 50 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds, which in this case happens to be dead center, is a good place to start for most genres. Again, play around with it, but for this case, I'm going to leave mine here at 100 milliseconds. Once you have that down, open up your piano roll, and let's go ahead and select the notes that we want our 808 to glide into. Now, I want mine to happen right here, and so I do know that that second note, I want it to be an octave up. So right there. And then on a 16th note grid, I just like to place it in the center. Now for my second note, we could probably do an A flat. So let's see how that sounds. so much better. And just like that, my friend, that is how you make an 808 glide in Studio One. Really quickly, friend, if you are a producer, which I'm assuming you are if you're watching this video, and you want to level up your production skills, then what I've done is I've created a free production training just for you. In this training, I break down my personal process and framework for making songs just like this one, but at a much deeper level. The training is 100% free, just a gift from me to you for hanging out with me today. And so if you want to start making songs, maybe like this one, then all you have to do to get access is click the first link down below. But okay, let's get back to it. However, this 808 still needs a little bit of help. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a black box, which is one of my favorite distortion plugins at the moment. And so there's a preset here called, yeah, the first one, 808 Distortion Fully Wet. However, right now it'll be too much, so let's turn this down, probably around like maybe here. And then we could even turn down the pentode and the saturation. Ooh. But okay, let's actually finish off this beat. For this, I am going to add another EQ, and then I'm going to do a low cut here at around 25, just to create a little bit more headroom. And then from there, I also like to add another plugin here called the Track Spacer. This is sort of like a dynamic EQ in a way. It's a good way to make your 808 and your kick sort of blend together, because whenever that kick hits, it's not quite sidechain, but it does carve out some space. And so from the kick, all you got to do is go over to your sends, go to sidechain, and then let's look for that. There it is. We could turn this down a little bit, actually. Now, I also want to add a sort of a clap here as well, just sort of like, just to accentuate some of these hits. Here's a little quick tip for you. If you want to rename your track, but sometimes your event just kind of keeps the name of the sample, to fix that, all you got to do is label your track. But before you hit enter, press the shift key, and look what happens. It renames the event as well. Do want to add some reverb to this, so let's add a vintage verb. And then maybe like a little drill perk. Something to give it a little bit more movement. This could be good, let's try it out. And then speaking of movement, let's go back up to our sample, and I'm gonna add a tremolator just to modulate this a little bit more. Kind of feel like it's bouncing up and down. Okay, I want to add some more melodic layers under this. So the first thing we have to do is figure out what chords are being played. Obviously, because we're in the scale of E flat minor, I'm guessing it's going to be an E flat minor chord in there, but let's verify and go over to right click audio, and then you could hit detect chords. However, if you just hit extract a chord track, it'll detect the chords and pull them up. So as you can see. And so from here, we can take these and just drag them down to some sort of VST. So this needs to be an E flat minor. I don't like that suspended chord. And this will probably be right there. And then this will probably also repeat. So if we take these, use the toolbar here to copy and paste, maybe a B flat minor. Maybe we can chop this up here, but then let's do an inversion actually for both of these. That could work for now. I'll tweak it a little bit later, but let's try that D flat here. I think that'll probably work. Okay, now the last thing I want to do here is sort of match these last two chords to match the rhythm of the sample. So perfect. Okay, now, whenever I sort of figure out the chords, I always like to do it on a piano so I can hear every note. However, this patch is not going to do it for this genre. So let's bring this down to a serum and let's see what we can find. Woo! Sounds like a Travis Scott vibe, like Mike Dean synth action. I like it. Now, I do want to filter that to kind of make it fit the sample. But before we do that, what if we Command B this to turn this into audio, right? And then we chop it up at the chords. So like there, there, there. So I'm just aligning it to the chords that I did on the MIDI. Select them all, reverse the audio, hit the X key to create crossfades in between, and then Shift plus X to create auto fades in the beginning and the end. And now we get this. And then of course from here we can add in our EQ, drag it over. My God. Okay, I want to add one more sound, like another little counter melody on top of this. let's add a little, like a wider. This is a free plugin, by the way, really, really good. I'm not about to go through a whole arrangement thing right now. However, I do want to give it a little bit of like structure just to see how it would sort of sound. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label this into a sort of chorus. I always like to create from like the thickest part is what I call it. And let's shift this down so we can create a bit of an intro. So like there, intro section, and then we could probably bring these. So yeah, that'd be a good intro. And now we need some sort of like riser and a crash. Okay, so let's go back over to Splice. Let's also add a plugin here called the Transgate by Kilohertz. Really, really good. And so, but I don't want it to start right away. So what we could do is click on this automation or this bypass button right here. That'll register it up at the top, drag it, and then drag it into the track. And then it creates an automation lane. So right there. Ooh! Now, as I mentioned, this beat is not fully mixed or arranged, but just to kind of give you an idea, this is what we have so far. Hopefully you enjoyed. But there you have it, friend. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. And if you did, would you do me a quick favor and hit that like button? That way it tells the algorithm that this video is good and it passes it on to other people. And if you really want to, hit that subscribe button. That way we can grow this awesome community. Again, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you on the next one.